Hi, I'm Howard Galganov. People who read my blog know who I am. People who don't read my blog, hopefully they're going to find out who I am. This is one of the first videos that we're doing. I'm at a luncheon that was sponsored by the Canadians for Language Fairness, who are a bunch of, I don't want to insult anyone, but sort of like gray-haired old folk like me. And we're the last generation, I think, who are capable of standing up and fighting. We're the last people who understand what the world is all about. We understand, even though I wasn't born until after World War II, we understand what happened during World War II. We understand what happened during the Korean War. We understand what happened during the Vietnam War. We understand what happened to a whole bunch of things that our younger people just have no relationship to. So the reason I'm here is because the Canadians for Language Fairness, aka CLF, I go back a long way with them, fighting for our rights, fighting for civil rights and liberties, fighting against language laws that, I guess the only word I can use are draconian. And they want to participate on Galganov.com, and they want to buy an ad on Galganov.com, and I said, your money's no good. Not on Galganov.com. I'm happy to give you an ad, a free ad. Because I know where they come from. I know that money doesn't grow on trees, especially for them. And you know, they do a lot of good work, but they were insistent that I take their money. Well, you know, who am I to say no? However, whatever amount of money I get from them is going to go back into the fight in spades, as they know as well. They were part of this huge language war that I've written about several times. You know, I put in, with their help and with some help of a few other people, $125,000 to fight for our rights not to be forced to use someone else's language. And then we got hit with $300,000 because our Supreme Court refused to hear the case, even though we were 100% correct in our fight, and it was a noble fight, and it included all of Canada. But for some reason, the Supreme Court of Canada just didn't want to get involved in something that might have put them in a political situation that made them uncomfortable. So I accepted, or I will accept, the support from the CLF, Canadian Language for Fairness. And as I do with everything and everyone, I don't even have to promise, because they know, they've been through it with me. They're going to get back in spades whatever I get today. So I want to introduce two people, Beth Trudeau and Beth, and Kim McConnell. Kim, and these are the driving force to Canadians for Language Fairness. Now, you know, I said old people, or I didn't say old, I said gray hair. Well, there's no gray hair here. Both attractive women, but isn't it incredible how it takes two women to shake the world? And these are two women who really are doing everything they can to shake the world. So, Kim?
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Kim McConnell. As Howard says, we are the people fighting for fairness for the English-speaking majority of Canada. We may not have got a lot of people's attention, but that's what we want to do. We want to tell the rest of Canada how badly this official languages policy is working, and to that end we will give Howard any help he can, what we can. So with this very small check, it's only a very small check, thank you, Howard, for all you've done.
There's no small checks, I assure you. So those people who want to give us $5 or $10 or whatever to Galganov.com, don't think it's small. It really adds up, and we can use every penny. And Kim? Beth?
Howard, we admire so much what you do for everyone. Thank you so much for what you do for everyone. And you're right, what you were saying earlier. This goes beyond the language barriers that we are fighting for as a CLF. There's so much more involved, and it's targeted at our children. They're the ones that are going to be hurt, our children and our grandchildren. And we thank you for doing all that you do for them.
Thank you both very, very much.
You're very welcome.
This is, well, if you'd like to leave, you can.
Thank you.
I understand this. We're not editing this. Now, Our cameraman, woman, is Anne, who you often read in my blog, who I refer to. We're doing this the way we do everything. Honest and open. So Kim has led the CLF for a long time, and she's very good at what she does. And if you saw me beaming, by the way, as they were speaking and handing me this check, I don't know how much it is, and we'll worry about it later. But and Beth has been a stalwart on radio and television on behalf of the CLF. We were talking today, let me go back. I was beaming because standing between these two incredible women, it really is a pleasure for me. I'm going to put this down. Before doing this interview, we had lunch. There's a dozen of us here. And these are the brain trust of the CLF. These are people who've decided to make a sacrifice, their own personal sacrifice, over years fighting for freedom. And it's not just about language. As a matter of fact, language is a symptom. It's about our freedoms. It's about other people who we elect, whose salaries we pay, who are prone to tell us what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. It's killing us. We were talking today about the pensions that our government workers get. To me, this is a huge pet peeve. It kills me. It kills me that people can quit working. I understand if they bank their sick days because they get to keep those sick days whether they're sick or not. It kills me that people can retire at maybe age 50. Certainly in the public sector at 55 years old. In Canada anyways, I assume it's not that far from the case in the United States. And this isn't, by the way, about Canada. This is about North America. This is about all of who we are. It kills me that public sector workers, and I don't care if you're a teacher or if you're a police officer, or a firefighter, an EMS worker, someone who has any kind of job in the public sector, I don't care. It kills me that most public sector workers, even though many work hard, put in a good day's work, and are a real benefit to us, it kills me that they'll retire as early as 50 or 55 years old with a pension that's greater than a working family is able to sustain while they're working. I have personal knowledge. I've met many of these public sector workers, teachers who are earning a family income of $150,000 a year, $75,000 each in pension money, not to work. Imagine earning in your household $150,000 because you were a teacher. Now, I wouldn't care if that pension was $150,000 that they made out of their own money, but they don't. They make the money out of your tax dollars, yours and mine. It kills me. Here, I've been an employer my whole life. Ann and I have had our own businesses for a long, long time. We've paid out millions of dollars in salaries and commissions and all kinds of perks. We never missed a payday for anybody except for Ann and myself, because being the owners of a company, especially a new company, we couldn't get paid a whole bunch of times. But we never missed a payday or a commission check for anyone who ever worked for us. And we were always good employers, and we never paid minimum wage. We always paid above minimum wage. So here we are, Ann and myself retired, and our government pension, everything combined for Ann and myself. So this is the pension money that we put in. We paid into this. It's not an entitlement, as a lot of government politicians or bureaucrats want us to believe. It's not an entitlement. We put in the money. Except we're really screwed, because if we had invested that money in a private investment instead of giving it to the government, we'd have a whole lot more today than what we have now. We'll never get our money back. But between Ann and myself, we earn about $2,000 a month. That's it. That's everything that you can possibly think of in terms of our pension. We couldn't live on that, so we have to work. We have to live off of our savings. Now, that's the story of most people in North America, and we're better off than most. Now, think about the juxtaposition. You get people, families, 2 children in a family, maybe their household income is $50,000 to maybe $75,000 a year. $75,000, by the way, for a family income in North America, in the United States and Canada, unless you're a public sector worker, is considered to be very high. I mean, you're dining on the Ritz at $75,000 family income, but you can't barely raise a family on $75,000 a year. You just can't do it. I don't have to tell you. Go to the grocery store and see how much food costs, especially fresh food, fruit and vegetables. Go fill up your car. Now in Canada, we're paying anywhere from $1 a liter of gas. There's roughly a little bit less than 4 liters to a US gallon. But $1 a liter for gas, where the equivalent in the States would be, I don't know, 65, 70 cents for a liter of gas. And if you go to Ontario, or not Ontario, but the province of Quebec, you pay $1.25 for a liter of gas. That's a lot of money. So you can't fill up your car and just take off and go and enjoy yourself for a drive without thinking about it. You can't go to the grocery store and buy eggs and milk and bacon, or forget about steaks because that's too expensive. And in Canada, we pay almost 2/3 more for milk and eggs and cheese than you pay in the States. Now think about the bureaucrats. Think about the public sector workers. While we're struggling to get by on $75,000 a year, and that's really the upper margins. Most families in Canada and the United States are lucky to see $50,000 per year. And if you ask most families if they can literally take $100 cash out of their pocket right now to buy something, be surprised how few people could. Ask them if they can take $500 out of their pockets. And I'm not talking about going to credit cards. I'm talking about money that they have, their money. $500, it's too much. $1,000, forget about it. 75% of the people in North America could not give you $1,000 in cash to save their lives because they're living from day to day. But now we've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of bureaucrats, whether they're township employees, almost village employees, whether they work for the federal government, the provincial government, the state governments. They're earning, well, they're not earning anything, they're taking as much as $50,000 each in pensions. And the politicians are even worse. So the people who we're supporting, the people who are literally our employees, these are the people who once every 4 years or so beg us for their votes. They absolutely beg us. They get on their hands and knees. They'll do anything to win our votes. And once they do, they screw us. And they don't care. And they don't listen. And they don't do what they promised to do. What they do is they take money. And they start campaigning all over again to take money. And they promise and they promise and they promise. During our discussion today over lunch, we talked a little bit about Donald Trump because he's not just an American icon. He's a world icon. He's the face and the voice that's standing up to the establishment. And I don't care, people who say, I'm conservative. Well, they're not really conservatives. Especially in Canada, it's called progressive conservatives. People who say, well, I'm liberal. Well, you're not necessarily a liberal. You're more likely a socialist. But on both sides of that spectrum, the insiders are killing us because as far as they're concerned, we are their gravy train. So the question that we have to ask is, do we want to get screwed by the left or do we want to get screwed by the right? Because either way, bend over because we're going to get screwed. This is really wrong. You know, and who's there to fight? If you ask the younger generation, the millennials, I think they're called, anything about our history, whether it's Canadian or American, they don't know squat. Ask them about the Kardashians, they'll tell you everything you can possibly not want to know, and more. But ask them about our history. Ask them about the greatest generation ever. That this is the generation that's disappearing before our eyes. These are the men and women who saved the world from Nazism. These are the men and women who fought the communists. These are the men and women who fought in Vietnam. Well, they're still with us, but they're like me, they're getting older. Ask the younger generation what they expect from their government. And it's free stuff. They don't even know who their vice president is in the United States. In Canada, ask the average young person to name our 10 provinces and 3 territories. I doubt very much if they can do that either. I know they can't do it. So, what are we going to do? We have various choices. We can do nothing. We're getting older. We can sort of hope to wait out the inevitable. We can join and try to get all kinds of free stuff, but free stuff doesn't last. Just ask the Venezuelans. One of the richest economies in the world. As a matter of fact, after World War II, Venezuela was the richest economy in the world. They're awash with oil. They got all kinds of stuff. I mean, they've got fertile land. They've got everything. They've got cattle farms that stretch for miles in every direction you could think of. They've got great plantations. They have a forestry industry. They have everything. Now people are begging on the streets for toilet paper because they don't have anything left. It's a socialist country. They just figured the government's going to take care of me. I don't want to see our countries come to that. But that's where we're headed. We're headed that with the left, with the public sector workers, with all the people who have their hands outstretched, wanting something for nothing. There's no such thing. Everything we have, someone has to pay for. And given both of our countries, half of the people in both our countries pay no taxes whatsoever. They don't pay into squat, but they want everything. Then you have half of the half that actually get more out of the government than what they pay in. So who's left? Who's left to pick up the pieces for everybody else? You know, the Americans had a really good healthcare system before Obamacare. It was unaffordable to many, but it was really good nonetheless, and it could have been tweaked, it could have been made much, much better. But you get people like the socialist Sanders, who wants a Canadian-style healthcare. Well, I live with Canadian-style healthcare. It's great, it's wonderful, it's free. If you don't mind waiting up to a year for a service. If you don't mind waiting months to see your family doctor. When I need healthcare, guess what I do? I go to the States, where I can still get healthcare. Or, in Ontario, it's against the law to have private medical systems. You can't have a private clinic, for example. But they do in Quebec. So I needed a procedure done on Friday. Guess what I did? I went to Quebec. It cost me $400. I got to see a doctor that I wouldn't necessarily see for up to a year if I wanted to wait for the public system. So who's going to fight for us? Well, it's us gray hairs. You know, my hair is getting grayer all the time. But we're the last vestige. We're the last group of people who understand what it took to build the great nations we have. Now, Canada's never been a really great nation, but we've always punched above our weight. Everybody in the world could always count on Canada, whether it was World War I, whether it was World War II, whether it was Korea. Tens and tens of thousands of Canadians volunteered to go fight in Vietnam to basically stop the spread of communism. We fought in Afghanistan. You know, every country went to Afghanistan to fight, but only 3 countries really fought. The Americans, the Brits, I think the Australians too, so it's 4 countries, and Canada. We're a small country, we're not a great country, we never were a great country, but we were a very dependable country. We're no longer dependable. I don't know what we stand for any longer, I really don't. I know what America stood for. The American dream was a dream the whole world had. And after 7.5 years of Obama, well, that dream's not going anywhere good. And if Hillary Clinton were to win, or as Trump calls her, Crooked Hillary, if she was to win the presidency, it's good night, Irene. Where do we go from here? Anyways, this is the first of what I hope is going to be a weekly video editorial. And we're going to put it on YouTube. And I hope that you spread the word for Galganov.com. I hope that you use whatever social media that you're comfortable with, Facebook, Twitter, I don't know what. I really don't understand these. Thank God I've got Ann to let me know what the latest trend is. Spread the word. It's very important, because without us, there's no one left. Have a great day. Thank you.